I'm testing every acrylic paint pen so that you don't have to. And today we're testing out Sharpies, but not those Sharpies, these Sharpies. This is the 24 pack of their creative markers, and it's actually a really interesting set that I got because it comes with 12 of their brush tips and 12 of their bullet tips. When I started this series, I only planned on testing brush tip markers because those are my favorite. I keep getting requests for other markers, so here we are. The reason I don't normally like the bullet tip markers is because when you typically get them, you have to pump them up a million times to get the ink down to the tip. But these tips are ready to blow. Here you can see the color selection by tip type. And to be honest, I find these color selections to be limiting and strange. For example, the brush tip doesn't come with a brown, the bullet tip doesn't come with a black, which is notable because they do also sell each one of these sets individually. However, if you combine both tip types into one color range, I'd give this selection a 5 out of 10. It would be so much higher if instead of including these two reds, which I think is unnecessary, they instead included a tan color, which is not in the set and I think would have made it so much more versatile. On the left-handed test, our brush tip probably performed the worst out of any pen that we've tried so far. In general, these were some whop-ass pens, like they were really juicy. Additionally, it's worth noting there is no carrying case, which is kind of to be expected with Sharpies, but all of our other sets did come with some kind of carrying device. On paper, the pens are super vibrant and we had no issues with the colors running out. They don't bleed through, but again, they're so wet that you can almost see how it's puckering up the paper. I added canvas to our material test and it worked good on that. I've also been getting requests to test on leather, but sorry, I don't just have like strips of leather laying around to test. Like all the other brands we've tested, it works good on wood, but if your wood is porous, you might need a second coat. Tested both tip types on glass and they both performed excellent. I also tried both of them on metal. They did not rub off at all, but they did scratch off, at least on this type of metal. They performed well on rocks, as well as on 3D prints, and despite being so juicy, they did not run down the layer lines. Overall, these performed great and I really like them. The color range is what's holding us back, so I'm going to give them a 5.5 out of 10. We've also gotten requests for their oil markers, which I think would perform similarly, so I'm holding off on those, but let me know what other markers we should test next.